Welcome back to Inspired Inc., the CWS podcast, a show where we promote indie comic creators and become inspired by what they create and their journey of creating it. Today on the show, we have Dan Price of Bigfoot Knows Karate as he talked to us about how to become successful at conventions and how conventions and indie comics have changed over the years and why it's good to look back and just admire your old art. All of this and so much more on today's Inspired Inc. How are you feeling about the series right now? You just wrapped up another Kickstarter.
Yeah, I'm feeling good, man. Just Adam Caswell sent me another page just earlier today, just knocking it out of the park. That was for Bigfoot Knows Karate Hinagon, which we just funded, and we'll
Mhm.
be shipping out in the next few months. And so he's finishing up the book right now. It's gangbusters, awesome looking, and I'm working on chapter three with Casey Allen. Already getting going on that, so hoping to have that ready, the fall. That'd probably be the timeline, maybe a little earlier. But yeah, just got Hinagon finishing up, Hellhound on my trail. That's the next one for the main storyline, and people are reception to the book's been good. I mean, nobody's slinging tomatoes at me at conventions or anything like that. So I'm going to call that a positive win. And here's my trash ass.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, something like that. But yeah, it's been good, man. I mean, it's the most fun I've ever had working in indie comics, bar none. So how do you
And
complain about
you've done a lot of books. I mean, I have a few of yours, like Masters of the Obvious. It's one of my favorites. Dude, it's
that?
just
Thank
the
you.
characters in it are great. How do you feel like going from writing a book like Masters of the Obvious and then like transitioning to where Bigfoot's kind of taken over? Like it's now what you're known for, versus some of your other work.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few titles. I did Latex Avenger was my first one. It was
Love it.
had a dude who wore rubber on his head. He had a sidekick spermicidal foam lad, and together they repelled crime 99.9% of the time. And then Masters of the Obvious, which was like the sci-fi space parody with like Dr. Cyclops and the Visible Woman. Then I did a thing for the Stan Lee Foundation called Excelsior, and that was the uphill adventures of a boy named Stanley, and it was all presupposed Stanley as a little kid growing up in the neighborhood, dealing with the neighborhood bully, and it was the only Y7 project on my resume, and probably will stay the only Y7 project on my resume. But it was, I really, I've tried to do some different things, but all of that was comedy. And now you're in Bigfoot land, which is, action adventure, psychological thriller. And yeah, I mean, spend all those years doing that thing. And then, you know, I just feel lucky that I finally found something that I love and is weird enough for me that it connects with an audience. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because maybe those other titles would have been more successful if I had Kickstarter and the internet the way I have it today. But that was like going to conventions and slinging the books. That's the only way you got out there. And so. But here we are today, and God bless Instagram and Kickstarter and Comics Wellspring. I mean, those are three things that make it really easy to make it, not easy, but I mean, it makes it a lot easier to make a comic book compared to how it was when I first got started in 2007. I mean, it's pretty wild. And, but I'm glad people dig the book. I mean, I know Casey feels the same way, and I know people are excited for what Adam's doing on the artwork on Pentagon. And it's, it just feels good.
And that's the
Did
thing
that
about
answer the
Bigfoot.
question?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about Bigfoot is that you come from a lot of comical stuff, Latex Avenger and all that type of things. And you look at Bigfoot Knows Karate and the title, it sounds very like comedic and it's such a good hook. You know what I mean? You're really good at finding, comic book titles that have a great hook to lure you in. Like you know what you're getting almost right away. And Bigfoot, you feel like you might go for like a fun little comedic book, but it's actually very serious, like you're saying, very psychological, very like interpersonal. And I know that comes from both you and Casey working together. And I believe you both co-write, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So we co-write the main arc together. Now,
Mm,
Hinagon, that's Casey's, baby. I helped him with that, but I mean, it really was Casey's book to write and run and that sort of
nice.
thing. I mean, and so that was, great, kind of letting the reins go and letting somebody, Adam and Casey go play with your toys. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
was a really cool experience. But we co-write the main line, the main storyline together, and then I do the art for that, and that sort of thing. So.
It feels like almost like the evolution of you, you know? Like you're taking your roots and you're putting a more serious tone on it, like the mature version. You know, when bands kind of have their early days and it's a thought of fun and everything, and then all of a sudden they have like their serious album that you think it's going to be, full of like, oh, it's going to be funny again, or whatever. And then you're like, man, this is a deep like interpersonal piece that's going to like really expand. And that's what I love about Bigfoot is that it's it's so awesome from just the title, and then you get to talking about the story in the first pages. You're hunting the rabbit, it goes into Kung Fu Thulu and all that, and then some crazy like um you know secret base like layer people like actually controlling everything and like controlling Bigfoot, and it's just opening this world, and I feel like it's some of the best world building you guys have done as well. I'm so excited to see what comes next. And because of that evolution, you've been in the game for a while. What's the industry like now? How much do you think has changed, like where it's benefited you, maybe not benefited you that much?
I mean, okay, so when I was in my first stint, uh, Kickstarter was like a thing that only a handful of people were doing. I had no idea how it worked. Now it's the norm.
Mhm.
It used to be you had to go to conventions and sling your books and travel far and take losses and all of that on it because you're slinging an unknown book. And nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares. I mean, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, but like, nobody went to a comic convention looking for Latex Avenger comics. If they came across them and they liked them, they'd buy them. But everybody was looking for, like people complain today, I guess, that people, come for to get the autographs of, Star Trek or Stranger Things or whatever. It is what it is, man. You can't argue with the customer, first of
Mhm.
all. It's your job to get them to understand what you're doing and get the, and sell them on taking a chance on, an unknown creator, an unknown comic. That part's the same, but like how to reach an audience, oh, it's cool, so much cooler now. Because I mean, like there was Facebook, but I mean, like Facebook for me is like, oh, I get to see my mom post a picture of, something, and there's the, my friends, doing their thing, holding up drinks, and then you got the one person who's going way too political, and I mean, all that
Yeah.
crap, right? And so like with Instagram, oh, that's the game changer for me. I mean,
Nice.
100%. When I got into, I'd stopped doing comics around 2014, and for like an oodle of reasons. I mean, if you want, you were said earlier, we'd be talking about the hardships of comics. I'll get to that later, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But when I came back to doing it in like 2020, 2021, I mean, I had already established myself a little bit on Instagram, just doing drawings, just, fan arty type stuff, or just, drawings of women or whatever I was doing, whatever studies I was doing, and making these little, 1, 2 page comics, that sort of thing. And it was so cool because you were already kind of getting a connection with people, and you could, I mean, I was starting to play with like Bigfoot Knows Karate, and people were kind of just gravitating to it. And it was like, and it wasn't even, hadn't really finished out the story yet of what it was going to be. Casey hadn't even come on board with me yet. I mean, it was just in its infancy. Like, because the Bigfoot character was like something I created in 2015. It was supposed to be a comedy. It was terrible, and but coming back to it, when I came back to, we're in middle of the pandemic, everything's changed, everything's so different. And and talking about how the industry has changed. I mean, look at what happened during lockdown. Look how many creators popped out of the woodworks during lockdown,
Yeah.
because they always had the stream of making comics, and they never, and this is the opportunity to do so.
Mhm.
And watched people's creativity just explode. I mean, it was amazing. I've never seen anything like that when previously when before I did comics. I mean, you were seeing people throwing up, great ideas, putting up Kickstarters, and then, some of them dwindled off now that we've gotten out of all of that. But,
Hmm.
there's such a great explosion of new creations out there. I mean, and without all the tech that we have now, well, I mean, seriously, without the social media, without the Kickstarter, without it, and I'm trying to blow smoke, but, to thank you to the printers too. Thank you,
Yeah.
Comics Plus, for make it easy for us. You know what I mean? It's like it is that's like a three-pronged effect. Have something, I've had oodles of printers and that was, a pain in the butt. Now I can call up and hey Cam, hey Melanie, help me out and
Hmm.
books or everything's going great and thank you or whatever it is. I mean they always
Yeah.
take good care of you. But I'm not doing that sort of thing. Sorry, there's your plug. Um, the but No, I mean it's changed dramatically, and I think the other thing that's changed is because of that social media component, the ability to connect with other creators.
Hmm.
When I first got going, man, it was like I was alone. I was a man on an island trying to figure it out. I had my How to Draw Comics the Marvel way, and and that was
Yeah.
let's go make comic books. And when I was, that was when I was 30. Okay, that was when I was 30. I had some help early on in school and that sort of thing, but when I was time to really sit down and make a comic, it that was crazy. So a lot has changed, man. I mean, I can keep going on, but I've taken a long time on this question, so I'm
No,
gonna
no, that's awesome.
yeah,
That's the great part is that like emphasizing that. It's kind of like when you talk to people about what it was like to have like dial-up internet and a
oh
landline
yeah,
and stuff like that. Like people can't comprehend that you had to run to the bathroom between commercial breaks so you don't miss what's happening next on TV or else you're going to miss the episode completely. Like this is the type of stuff that creators need to realize like this has only been so accessible for a number of years and it's
absolutely.
only been designed and created and we're only like things are just evolving so fast on us and covid had a lot to do with that as there's a lot of pros and a lot of negative things that happened during those couple years but I mean the
Mhm.
pros was that a lot of us got very creative and we got to express
Yes,
those and it turned into the whole thing where it's hard to say that you have an excuse to not make your art or not make your book and not eventually make your dream come true because all of us still have day jobs now. All of us still come home and we're exhausted, but we work a little bit on our passion every single day and eventually it
yeah,
happens. And a lot of us got into that practice during that lockdown period. And that's what I think was so beneficial. And that's where it seems like the gears just shifted for everybody. Lesser known comics came out of that the podcast like when I was doing Apollo City Comics that really changed and shifted. It was a good monumental time for creatives to just take what they had and run with it. And just like you were saying, I knew a lot of podcasts coming up during COVID because everyone was at home and everyone was starting a show and some of them didn't make it past episode 5 or 10 and some of us all lasted past that or grew and got better and you're one of those creators that just grew and got better um and you also use
right.
like technology not just to like boost your work, but now you're just like a digital creator. And it shows a lot in Bigfoot Knows Karate in such a cool way because you're not because I know you and we've spoken many times, like I know your styles,
Sure.
but I would love for you to talk to us about, you don't use your typical pen and digital way. Like
No,
tell us about your technique.
I draw with my fingertip. This is my stylus. I draw on a HP laptop with a touch screen, and I use Adobe Illustrator for all my drawing and most of my coloring, and then Photoshop to do color corrections, effects, things like that. And it can go back a few different times depending on what I'm trying to do, or bring in multiple layers of, I mean, it is. I'm a graphic designer, creative director for my day job. And so I really take a lot of what I've learned as a designer over the years and apply that to what I'm doing as a comic book artist. 4 years ago, I used to pencil and paper. That's how I make comics. One thing I learned about myself during that time, I'm a shitty inker. Part of my language, sorry. That's my one, right? Anyway, so I'm a terrible inker, and it was when I started teaching myself how to really draw digitally, I try to stylus. My hand shakes a little. Having that thing in between me and screen, just it showed. And
Mhm.
so I started doing it with my fingertip, and it worked great. So we're rolling with that now. And I use the mouse too. Don't get me wrong. I use the mouse and the fingertip, and that's how. And so I draw everything out in Illustrator and then color in Illustrator using a lot of clipping masks and that sort of thing, and then paint over the top of the illustrations to get any shadows and highlights, things like that. And then I ship over either the whole page, pieces of the page over
Mhm.
into Photoshop so I can put in any layers and effects, or not layers, but I mean effects and lighting and things like that. And then I ship the whole file back over to Illustrator, and I letter in Illustrator. And then from there, it just goes into PDF format and then into InDesign for pagination. So, but the other part to the creative process for me is co-writing with Casey.
Mhm.
Because it's an unusual thing, and there's not a lot of co-writing teams for the most part. And it's something that I really cherish because he's an amazing writer, and to have him on board, I mean, it's incredible. And then we get to do well, we use a Google Doc, and just bounce the script with between each other, and it's a lot of phone calls in the afternoon and things like that. Stuff that you don't have to do when you're writing solo. But I mean,
Mhm.
if I was writing this solo, then I don't think this book would be near what it is today. I mean, Casey just helped expand what we were trying to accomplish. Me. I mean, if I'm not like, you know. Anyway, the he just expanded on what I was trying to do, and just brought such great energy to the book and the pacing, and cool characters, and just
Mhm.
so the creative process is it's kind of like when you're writing and you're writing, you got an artist. I've done that before, where I've just written the books and I had an artist draw the books. um but it's different too, because like you're drawing the book and writing the book and co-writing with somebody, and it's like it's an experience I wouldn't give up. You know what I mean? Like
That's awesome.
I'm really grateful. I'm really, really grateful for Casey and what he brings to the table. And now Adam too. I mean, with his amazing artwork that he's bringing over to Inagon. I mean, it's a pretty cool book. This story that takes place all the way back in feudal Japan. It's pretty rad. So
And that's what's so cool about like Bigfoot is that it explores like a lot of this world that you guys are creating and different time stuff. And I think about how, you in specific do your drawing and it takes me to like caveman days where you dip your finger into, whatever blood or, whatever ink they, created and put it on the walls. And it's such a savage book with such a savage creature. And the fact that you're using your fingers to create it, it just feels appropriate. Like it just
I'm gonna
meshes so
remember
well.
this. I'm gonna remember this the next time I'm drawing. I'm like, oh,
Yes, exactly. Dude, that's
that's
exactly what I think
awesome.
of. Like you're taking the beginning of artistry and you're mixing it with our tools today. But you're still
Yeah.
keeping the same style, And that's something that should be like in a museum or something. I feel like there's a historical aspect that needs to be like uncovered there and really pointed
That's
out.
hilarious. That's hilarious. Next, I'm gonna get a stylus. It's gonna be a bone, like a
Yes.
stegosaurus bone. Oh. Anyway, yeah, I like it. I like
And
it.
you're saying, conventions were and still are like one of the, best ways to get your book out there and to get in people's hands and to network and meet people, but it's also like one of the hardest ways to get your book in someone's hand and network and meet people. Like how do you find success at conventions by bringing people to your table? Because I feel like indie creators, that's one of the biggest struggles. And when I've been to conventions,
Yeah.
creators kind of have their heads down sometimes just drawing, and it's hard for them to like, a lot of us are introverted and or we're just socially fried out by day 2 or 3. And you have to keep that upbeat salesman aspect because like we all know, being a comic book creator, you are the writer, artist, manager, scheduler, everything. You're 20 roles in one. But
Oh yeah.
how have you found really like strong success at conventions? And how do you bring people to your table?
Um, okay, so conventions, that's a whole other animal, isn't it?
Hmm.
Like I was trying to think of comics as, this is not a competition. They're not I'm not in competition with other creators. I'm just trying to make comics and learn from each other and have a good time and just keep a positive outlook. But you get to a convention and everybody's like, getting upset if you're blocking their table a little bit, or what I'm saying. The
Yeah.
competition factor is a little different, and so it's like, but the biggest thing you can do is just try and make connections with people. People walking by, and and just try and grab them over with your elevator pitch, or grab them over with, "Hey, I like your shirt." That's a big one for me is, "Hey, I like your shirt." And
There you
well, if they're wearing a shirt that I can speak to, I got it. If it's like manga, I'm lost. I have
Yeah.
nothing. I can't speak to it. I'm sorry to all the manga people who pass by my table that I don't get to bother. The But I mean, it's having a good setup. That's always a cool thing. Having something to grab somebody's attention on your table. Like I have a wrestling belt right over there that I
That's
hang
right.
on the table, and people are, "Oh, what's that?" That helps a lot. Freebies. Mark Bernal from Lesser Known Comics. You know Mark, don't you? You know
Oh, a
Mark.
little bit, a little bit. I've heard of the
Yeah, a
guy
little
a
bit. Yeah,
couple of
yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah. Mark, says, give him a free bookmark. As they're
Hmm.
walking by, would you like a free bookmark? Just give them a bookmark and like, hey, Bigfoot knows karate bookmark. And they're like, what's that? And that helps.
Hmm.
And having your elevator pitch on the ready, I mean, it's like Godzilla versus Kong meets Kill Bill with a twist. I can say that in my sleep.
Yeah.
And when I say Bigfoot knows karate, it's like Godzilla versus Kong meets Kill Bill with a twist. People usually grab somebody's attention,
Hmm.
and and it's knowing when to talk, and it's knowing when to shut up too. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It is You can't hear her talking in the background, can you?
No, not at all.
Okay, perfect. Okay, the so it's knowing when to talk and when not to talk, because I put reader copies out on my table so people can flip through the comic and
Hmm.
get an idea of what they're getting into. So it's like knowing, just let them read. Hopefully they land on the right page and they laugh at there's like three jokes in the first issue maybe. And drop those in there and just know when. But I don't know. We're lucky we got a pretty good hook for a title,
Yeah.
and that generally that Bigfoot knows karate. Well, what the hell is that? That is often the question. Where did that, and how did you come up with this, and that type of thing. And so you get to talk about those stories too. What were you thinking? What were you smoking? I mean, I hear a lot of different things. When How did you come up with this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's just, but the whole thing is just interacting, getting people out of their shells. You mentioned people about, being, a little bit more introverted and that sort of thing going to conventions. That's the beautiful part about conventions for people who are introverted, extroverted, whatever. They're all fans.
Yeah.
They're all fans. Maybe not your fan, not yet. That's your job to get them to do that, but they're all fans of something. And this is their, lack of better term, safe space to be whoever they want to be.
Yeah.
Whether that's just a convention goer or dressing up as the latest manga or the latest Marvel or the latest whatever. This is their place, and I think the best thing you can do is like respect that. You know what I mean? And just have fun with them because they only came to have a good time. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They only came to have a good time. And then the networking portion of conventions is just amazing. I mean, hung out with you face to face in Baltimore, and I don't know how many times I've hung out with Mark now, all in different parts of the country or whatever, and just all the different friends, and you know what I mean? And then getting
Yeah.
to meet other creators and start new projects, and pretty cool.
That's awesome. There's so much to unpack there too. Convention success I feel is like the biggest hurdle to really overcome as a creator. And like you're saying, that elevator pitch means so much. And that's when last year when we met and I was hearing you pitch, to people and I was hanging out at your table for a little while and I was just kind of observing all these creators around me because I didn't have a book out yet. I had stuff in the works and now a lot of stuff is happening. But
Yeah,
when I was thinking about like the punk anthology and Teenage Babylon, and I was like trying to come up with my pitch, and that's where I realized like how to formulate it and how to make it a fast hook. Cosmic punk rock love story. It's gonna get somebody at some point, and
yeah,
you have to be brief and memorable and let them walk away with something to remember that as well, And I feel like you have such success with that. And I really, really do adore it because you've turned into like a convention guru that we all can observe and be like, okay, like his banner placement's freaking awesome, like his diversity on his table. Like, even if you're not into Bigfoot Knows Karate, you have all of your past works and you aren't shy to switch genres or switch types of stories, That's what's so entertaining that you have, a variety and a plethora of things to choose from, freebies, all that type of stuff. Um, do you feel like those freebies like are kind of how do you come across those? Like how do you get those freebies without hindering expense wise? And that way that can help other creators kind of figure out how to lure people in.
well, I mean, look, you're gonna get some, you're gonna incur some costs and freebies. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, but you know, the nice part is, like people who love stickers, they'll pay for stickers. I mean, but I have no problems throwing in a sticker to, sweeten a deal and get the book, get books sold.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the thing for me. I don't have like fan art behind my table. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's comics. This is what I do. And so bookmarks, that's just something that's just cost of doing business. Get 1,000 bookmarks printed and take them with you to a convention. um the lesser known's really good. Lesser known comics is really good about getting us other swag and that sort of thing that we can put out on our tables, giveaways, which is great. We did in Baltimore, we did, what is it, lesser known did the thing with Comics Wellspring, the I don't
Oh,
know,
the
like
Baltimore
primer
edition.
anthology, the
Yeah.
Baltimore edition. Yeah, absolutely cool as hell. Everybody who bought a book, I'd give them a copy of the comic, and they loved that. They thought that was great. And yeah, there's those types of things that you can do. And mini prints, that's something that has been kind of a cool thing that
Mm.
we've been playing with for a while, I guess, since the first campaign. Do I have one laying around? Yeah, here's one. Um, here's another one. There we go. These are great. These are like large postcard size little prints, and
Yeah.
they fit nicely in a what are those things called? Gemini mailer,
Oh yeah.
and then I put them into campaigns. Hey, if you buy the deluxe edition, we throw in a couple of mini prints, and then I have all my back stock of those that I take with me to conventions. Hey, buy a comic, you get a mini print. Buy a deluxe edition, you get two mini prints. Buy three comics or whatever, and take them all. They
Nice.
love them. Yeah, so it's not that I'm giving away stuff for free all the time. A lot of the time it's just something to, hey, here's a cool kid comes by in a costume, here, have a sticker, you're part of the Fiend Club. And give them a Bigfoot Knows Karate Fiend Club sticker. They like those. Fun, but a lot of it is paid for, but it doesn't, if you think about it, the Kickstarter paid for the mini prints.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I bought them for in the first place. So it's just overflow. A lot of my stuff that I bring is overflow from Kickstarters.
Mhm.
That I can just have on hand. So that's I mean, so yeah, that it definitely helps out along the way to have some ancillary items. T-shirts. I have T-shirts these days too. The Bigfoot Knows Karate Team Club
Yeah.
T-shirts. Those are a lot of fun. Those are a lot of fun. People really seem to gravitate to those. So having some extra stuff on your table besides your books definitely helps. And yeah, it definitely helps.
And it seems to be like to be smart about it, you're kind of preparing for all this during your Kickstarter. Like you're kind of using that to line up your year for success. Like you
Yeah.
have a good Kickstarter, you get these freebies, these extras. I'm actually doing that with these posters, all the punk anthology posters. We've printed so
Right.
many extra of them that when I table, I now have a poster to, sell or give away with the book. Whenever they buy the variant or something, to just sweeten that deal, to make it really worth it,
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
don't really go to conventions to buy indie comics. People aren't going there to be like, I can't wait to see what's in Artist Alley and all the new creators this year. They're going for Tom King and
Yeah.
Scott Snyder and, like you're saying, the Star Trek people and the voice actors. So we're here trying to just like get their attention. And that's why, your pitch is important. That's why like the title of your book is important to get that hook. Why your presentation and what is out there is eye catching to bring them in. That wrestling belt, eye catching. It's shiny, it's glimmering in like the light, it stands out, it's big. All of our banners, as much as they stood out, at one point, they are now becoming a wall to blend. And it's just the artist alley wall of banners. So, I mean, even your banner needs to pop to a certain extent and
Oh
not
yeah.
just fade into everything.
I years ago I had a 5 foot banner, okay, that I built a PVC stand, and it
Ah,
had
nice.
this giant 2 page. Well, it had this graphic here. Hold on, I have it right here. I haven't hung this yet. It had this graphic on it. Um,
Cool. Nice.
yeah, it was a Bigfoot knows, not Bigfoot knows, Latex Avenger 2 page, like a wraparound cover,
Mhm.
and had that printed up on a gigantic thing, and that was good for grabbing attention, but not so easy to travel with. Is it's not, you really can't get it on a plane, but
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that would be cool. I'm actually cat that Doug Knight. You might know Doug.
Oh, yeah,
You know
yeah. Love Doug. He's
Anyway,
gonna be on the
Doug
show soon too.
turned me. He's amazing. Love Doug. The He turned me on to a place that does cutouts. So I'm looking at like a 9 foot Bigfoot Knows Karate cutout that I can
Yes.
take to shows here in Texas, and ones that I can drive to and that sort of thing. So
Oh, that's gonna be so
yeah,
sick. That's gonna be awesome. Yeah, those
so,
cutouts are getting, that's the thing, being innovative with your
yeah,
craft and with your book to make it pop. Um, and convention wise, I have some other creators venturing out to like sci-fi conventions, horror conventions, and not just sticking to comic book conventions. And they seem to almost have more success sometimes at these other places because one, there's no other comics there. And if you're
sure.
walking around these places, and you come across a book, you're like, oh, wow, this actually stands out among all the other things I'm seeing here. Have you explored those avenues as well?
Yeah, actually, my next convention is a horror convention here in
Cool.
Austin. So I'm going to do that. That should be a lot of fun. I've done it once previously, but it was years ago, and I was invited by another creator who I had done some work. He said, if you want to come to my table with any artwork or whatever that you want to bring, by all means. And it was before I had gotten back into really doing creator owned stuff. And so all I was had like Freddy versus Jason, and
Mhm.
what was it, Young Frankenstein, and just some
Nice.
fan arty
Oh,
type
yeah.
pieces. Yeah, just some cool stuff. And I brought like 10 pieces with me. I didn't really have anything. I didn't have anything printed, so I just took what I had. I sold out my prints in an hour or two, and I was like, all right, peace them out. So I haven't really experienced it from this standpoint. I was talking to my wife. I said a few days ago, and I said, I'm thinking about doing printing up some horror prints. And she's like, we got to talking about it. And basically, she was like, you never do that type of thing when you go to other conventions. Why start now? Just
Mhm.
stand on your own 2 feet on this one with just the comics. And I said, you're right. And so, and that's my big mission, was no matter which convention I'm going to, whether it's a horror con or Comic Con or whatever we're trying to do, it's just push the book, push the book, push the
Yeah.
book, get people excited about it because I'm excited about it. And there are other folks who are excited about it. Why can't that excitement grow? You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
but I think having a different avenue, I mean, I know people who do walks. I know people who do, like festivals and things like that. Wherever you can find an audience to it. I think that definitely leave no rock, unchecked or whatever the line
Yeah.
is. So yeah, give it a shot.
That's so cool. And, it sounds like as successful as this all seems, and it sounds, and you've had a lot of success, it's not always a guaranteed success. Like, even, we deal with rejection from, working with other creators, from sending to publications, but we also deal with a lot of rejections at conventions and just trying to sell your book and just trying to make your book. How do you handle and deal with like a frustrating convention where it just did not work out? And, I've had creators go through a convention and they didn't do well and they just want to give up at a certain extent. Like, how do you
Yeah.
work through those?
Think about it with a clear head. Don't make any rash decisions on the weekend.
Hmm.
Don't, well, I'm quitting anyway, so I might as well go tell this creator over there, what I really think of them, and don't do anything. That's not going to get you anywhere. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, negative positivity breeds positivity.
Hmm.
I firmly believe that, and negativity so easy to achieve. Um, it's hard when you have a convention that doesn't work out. It's hard when you go somewhere and you can't get anyone to notice you or what you're doing, and that's tough. Um, all you can do is remember, look, not all of them are going to be, you're not going to bat 1,000 at these things. I had a really good series of conventions for a good run there, where I was like, boom, 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 just hitting it and going. And I had one not long ago that it just wasn't a well-traveled show, and and again, talking to my wife, she's like, yeah, you're not gonna bat 1,000 of these things, they're all not gonna be perfect, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, so how do you deal with it? Go talk to my wife, because she's really good at this type of thing, I guess. If y'all need her number, yeah, just be on it. So but yeah, I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy when it doesn't go well, and it does get discouraging. But I go sometimes. You go back and look at the old work you've done. And I can go back through and look at all the titles I mentioned before, and all the other work I've done for other creators, and I can go back through. I can go back through this box right here. I can go back through this box right here. I can
Oh
look
man.
back at all the work I've done.
Oh
Okay. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And that
Yeah.
is something that is so satisfying, because it reminds you of like where you came from, where you're going, what you want to do, what you want to achieve. I mean, let me show you something real quick. I can find one. I've got so much stuff in here. I mean, I've got it's incredible to me how much one can work on and one can do and that sort of thing. But like I look at this, the very first comic I ever made, and I know that you will never get to read this because it's so utterly bad. It's so utterly terrible that it could no way could the weekend I just have be as bad as this comic. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like it's just remind yourself, remind yourself of where you're going and what you need to do. That's what keeps you going. Look back
Yeah.
and take some stock of yourself, because it's not always going to be the doldrums. I can promise you that.
I can imagine. And, you have a long history of published work that you've put out. Like, does that feeling of like that you got when you got your first book, does it change as does it ever wear off that excitement, that wow, that wonder when you receive your new books in the mail from anywhere from the proof to like getting the shipment in? Or are you still just as excited every single time it like you come to your doorstep and there's new books, your new work all ready to sell?
It's once I get through the okay, let me check it over and looks good and all of that stuff, then it feels great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna deny that I go to the more cautious side of it first. But
Hmm.
once it's done and it's finished and you're holding it in your hands and you're like, I made this, this is mine. You can't take that away from you. That can't be taken away from you. This is the thing that you spent months on, or however long it was to make the comic.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just such a good, gratifying feeling. I mean, especially like when I got the first copy of Bigfoot in. Oh man, I must have the proofs. I must have walked around with the proof of that book in my hand for like a week, just looking it over and making sure that you know what I'm saying, and just feeling
Yeah.
like, yeah, like I mean, I hadn't drawn a comic since Latex Avenger 3, um, and which was like in 2010 or something like that.
Oh
So I hadn't
wow.
drawn like well, no, that's not true. I'd drawn some work, some stuff for some other people, but I
Hmm.
hadn't drawn like a creator own book, my own thing. Like I'd done
Hmm.
some Halloween Man, I've done some other things, um, but it was yeah, holding that book, that Bigfoot #1, it was just like when I was holding Latex Avenger 1 in my hand. It was just
That's
it's
amazing.
real. Yeah, it's real. So it feels good. It feels real good.
And you've collaborated with like Drew Edwards, who did Halloween
Yeah.
Man. And what a cool dude too. I've spoken to him on Apollo before, and I gotta try to get him on this show
Cool.
too. Really great guy. How do you feel like working now, like where you're kind of doing the writing and drawing versus when you're just doing the writing for some of this stuff? Like, do you feel like you might go back to that collaborative? I'm just gonna write and have someone else draw, or do you really do like just kind of honing it all at this point?
I have a couple of projects that I'm going to explore after the fifth issue of Bigfoot's done. Um, one of those I may draw. One of those I definitely want somebody else to do.
Mm,
But it's just going to be finding the right people to fit the bill. Um, I like doing it. I like drawing. I do. It's hard. It's time consuming. I mean, I'm
mhm.
not going to lie, but it's such a joyful thing to get to do. It makes my day better when I get to draw. I'm excited about something when I get to draw. Writing. I love to write, and but it's not the same freeing feeling as doing something artistic from a visual perspective. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's just me. That's just how I feel. Um, like I have this story that I want to work on. I'm adapting a play into a graphic novel,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, but it's a flip of a coin right now. Do I draw it, or do I get an artist to fit the bill on that right now? And then there's this other thing. It's kind of like a futuristic noir story that or like modern noir. With a kind of a pop art sensibility. I don't know how to explain it. But, yeah, how do I mean, do I, what I'm saying? It's like there's a lot of things to explore. Plus, there's this whole Bigfoot thing that I'm still want to do I
Mhm.
still want to explore as a writer at the very least after I'm done with the first arc.
Yeah.
So many different options. And you can't do. That's the nice part about writing is you can do more than one project. If you're drawing, man, you really gotta be married to that, and because you got to finish, what 22 to sometimes what we do on the last book was 36 pages.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like it's a lot. It's a big commitment, man. So writing is a lot more freeing in terms of being able to play with more toys. But if you only get to play with Legos for 15 minutes, you know what I mean, versus the 10,000 hours that the artist spends, you know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
it's just you appreciate it differently. You appreciate the medium differently, I think.
That's so true. And I mean, yeah, for I have like 5 different projects, but I'm writing them all, and that just makes my life way
Uh,
easier to just try to do that. You know what I mean? And that's so true. A lot of people don't realize that an artist is probably dedicated to one thing for a while, or maybe 2 things for a while,
mhm.
especially an indie artist. Um, and the way the industry is and the way comics are made and the production of them, is that why you kind of like having so many open things at once? Because it does take time, especially for indie comics. And you are someone that seems to like work on a book and then release it as they're either working on the second book already but it's in production, but instead of having like a whole graphic novel done, why do you go the
Yeah.
single issue route instead of putting it all together, since that seems to be kind of one of those things in indie comics? We have like Tank McGregor, that was an entire thing put together, but then we have creators like you that really want to spread out the story. What are your like intentions and thoughts of feelings about that?
I don't know. I mean, I just came from, a world of, comics, floppies, whatever you want to call them.
Mhm.
That's how I see the story as episodic more than, just one big. story. I know we live in a world that loves to binge.
Yeah.
The media they take in. So reading a graphic novel is a lot like just binging a season of whatever show you're watching. But I don't binge TV shows. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't. Maybe that and the doing it episodically is it goes hand in hand with each other. I hadn't really thought about it from an analytical perspective before, but you know, eventually I'd love to put this into a trade, but not just a trade. I want to put it into a hardback book that has, the the 5 issue arc plus Hinagon plus, all the director commentaries and all the 20 page, 30 page fan art gallery, because we've been
Mhm.
lucky enough to receive so much fan art,
So
thank
much.
you to everyone who's done that. Thank you. Put in all the sketches that y'all haven't seen,
Mhm.
and all the other things, and really make it into something. I'm finishing, I'm working on the 3rd issue right now. There's a really good chance we're going to hit 100 pages of content in Bigfoot in 3 issues. I mean,
Wow.
they're meaty stories,
They are.
36 pages. So, I don't know. I mean, and plus I'm just a slow artist, so you always have to bear with me a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I guess I could have just drawn the whole thing, but it would have taken me years. And who likes to work in a vacuum? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know. So hats off to creators like Ray Garza who can do those many pages and put out phone books the way he does because it's quite incredible
It
what
really
they are.
is. And I mean,
Yeah.
you're totally right. I do love like yeah, can go either way for I guess really depending on the type of story you're telling too. And I do like that
Right.
episodic aspect of, Bigfoot Knows Karate because it has a format for a reason and it's giving you time to breathe and it's giving you time to open up new avenues and network more
Mhm.
and bring in this fan art and open the doors for like other people doing stories and like spin-offs and really making this world flourish because we were all hooked by issue one. Do you find it difficult as you progress through issue three and entering into issue four and whatnot? Or are you just as excited, if not more excited, to get this done and out there for people to see?
So, I am so excited for issue 3 for chapter 3. It's incredible because we get to explore the characters further and really get to peel back the onion. But more than anything, I'm just excited to be drawing again. You
Nice.
know, like there was, while we were working on Hinagon, and I had, I mean, I'm not drawing it. I'm not the main writer on it. I'm editing and I'm doing things like that, but I'll letter the book when it's finished, but I'm not really hands dirty, And
Mhm.
so I had, working on the campaign and doing all the stuff that needs to be done with that, all the marketing and things like that. That's where I've been immersed in for, the last couple of months. But now it's like, okay, now we get to start playing again. I've been doodling on the first, well, not first few pages, like some of the prelim pages
Mhm.
for chapter 3, and I'm just kind of feels good. It's like if you haven't gotten to ride your bike for a while, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You finally get to go out and do that again. And it's like it's just a freeing feeling. I mean, it's as much therapy as going and laying on the couch and spilling your guts out to shrink or something like that. It just makes me feel good when I get to draw.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel you
So
on that.
yeah.
Creating something is your outlet, it's your escape, it's how you could get some of these life frustrations and it could pull you into a different world for a
Mhm.
while that you're happy with. Um, as we wrap up this episode, like what is the best advice you can give to someone um to just have a successful convention outlook and to like prepare themselves as they're putting out their first book as they're starting to like enter everything. We've talked about networking, we've talked about booth setups, but what does it really take to just like not give up and keep on pushing over no matter what?
It's a really big question. There's a lot of layers to that one.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody who's just getting started, I mean, what's the advice that you would give? Basically, give somebody who's getting started and taking their first steps into comics and conventions and all of that. make sure to find some people. Find your tribe. You ever heard
Mhm.
that phrase?
Yeah,
Find your
100%.
yeah, find your people, man. Find those people who've been doing it for a while longer than you, who have gotten some bumps and scrapes and some successes along the way, who are willing to take a chance on, and befriending you, and you know what I mean, and like do, because not everybody's going to be friendly.
Mhm.
You're going to find people that you connect with. You're going to dig their art, they're going to dig your art, and hopefully, that'll start a chain reaction, and you'll start meeting new people, and watch them, learn from them, grow from their experiences. I I've met people on Instagram, 6 years ago that still talk to you today, and we're still comparing notes with each other. And then you just meet new people and have exciting discussions. And then "Oh, hey, I'm going to go to this show. Okay, well, hey, I'll go to that show too, and we can meet and table next to each other and get to learn from each other and all of that. It's the best thing about comics, or to me. Yeah, the stories are great and the art's cool and the big epic tales and all that, but finding other creators who are just as excited about the craft, who are willing to like just kind of go in it, into battle with you, and it's the best. It's the best. So it's tough when you're going at it by yourself.
Mhm.
Hell, if you have questions, DM me on Instagram. I'll answer. You know what I mean? Like, because I remember coming up, nobody was there,
Mhm.
and I had to meet people as I was going about, and you already gotten in some bad habits by that point. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So just find your tribe, man. Find your people. They'll guide you in the right direction.
I love that, and you're absolutely right. It's like the best thing you can do. It's how I got to meet amazing people like you, Ben Cherry, so many
Yeah,
people. Just going to conventions and just being out there and hang out for a minute, learn a little bit. Learn tips of the trade and just absorb as much as you can, and just be good to people. It's what it's all about. We're all just trying to be
absolutely.
good and make art and not be shy about it. Because it's hard putting your art out there and for the world to see, and it could be scary and intimidating, especially when you start comparing skill levels and all this type of stuff. But it's actually
Mhm.
we're all together just trying to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Let me. Here's one other thing I'd say. It does not cost anything to be nice. Okay, it does not cost anything to be nice. It's a small industry if you really think about it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people in there, but it's a small industry. And if you look at each other like brothers in arms and having a great time, or people in arms, or however you want to put it, going in and having a creative renaissance and doing amazing things together and being impacted by each other's incredible work. That's how you're going to find success in this industry. If
Hmm.
you look at it like, all these people are better than me or worse than me, or they price their stuff too much, it's going to make mine look bad, or they're going to price it too much, or too little, and now they're going to undercut me, or any of those negative vibes. Let those go.
Yeah.
Let those go, and it's not easy to do. I get it. Listen, I mean, I'm a pessimist by nature, you know what I mean? But when it comes to comics, like my wife said to me, she said, again, my wife, she said to me, do this as long as it's fun. You know what I mean? As long as it's
Yep.
fun, and man, I'm having a blast doing it because, I mean, I found my tribe, I found my people, I found the project, I found, my team, and all those things that you need in order to find any sort of, I'm not going to say success, happiness
Yeah.
in what you're doing. That's the big thing, you know, and be happy, be
Yeah.
nice.
And
Yeah,
success takes time and it's a goal you're aiming for. And so at least being happy and pursuing that with happiness is going to come out way faster and way,
yeah,
it's going to pay off way better for you emotionally, mentally, in every way possible. But also just accepting, it takes time, and just be happy while you're doing it, and success will find you eventually. No matter what you do, you just got to stick through and just keep on doing what your best you can. And I love that because I've seen that through you, time and time again. and absorbing your history and knowing about it. And there's so much more of your history to explore that I hope to get you back on other episodes so we could like dive
Oh,
deeper into
absolutely.
that and everything. But for right now, like, where can we find you? What's your where can we look up Bigfoot Knows Karate, and what are your plans for 2024?
Where can you find me? You can find me at lesserknowncomics.com. That is the amazing Lesser Known Comics right there. That's my publisher. Those are my people. And thank you for having me, guys. You can also find me at bigfootknowskarate.com. There are links to my social media as well as links to purchase books, t-shirts, all that stuff type of thing. You can go find me on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok under Dan O Might 139 right there under my name, right there.
There you go.
Dan O Might 139, and that's where you can find me these days. And yeah, was there a second part to that?
What are you up to 2024?
Oh, 2024. So I am going to be doing, I've got a few things happening. Obviously, chapter 3, Hellhound on My Trail. That's the big thing that I'm working on this year. Other things that I'm wanting to do, I've got applications out to C2, E2, Emerald City, Baltimore, Heroes Con. I'm waiting for the application to come out for that one, Comic Palooza. So I've got a few shows that I'm looking at doing as well as some local things here in town. More signings, more and more signings. That is a big thing I'd like to be doing more of at comic book stores in the state, if possible. And try and get out there and just meet as many people as possible, spread the gospel of Bigfoot Knows Karate, and just try and have a lot of fun making this comic, man. Because we've got some really crazy stuff in line, coming up in subsequent issues. So get ready.
Oh yeah, so excited, Dan. It's always a pleasure talking to you. It's always very
That's what,
insightful. It's
Brandon.
always very encouraging. And it's been a pleasure knowing you for as long as we've known each other now, and just always consistently keeping up and just seeing what you're up to and seeing the passion come out of you. And you've just been such a good person to look up to in the comic community. So thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate our friendship, dude. Really do.
Oh
And
yeah,
I look forward to doing this again.
definitely. We'll definitely get you on the show soon. Thank you so much, and thanks for hanging today.
Your comic books to life, and print your comics with Comix will spring.